Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvin. So today I want to be talking to you about how to get exposure and publicity for your brand. And I'm bringing on an amazing special guest named Michelle Rupp, who has been a TV producer, has been in the TV world, and really has a unique mechanism to help people like us, entrepreneurs like us, not to just get a drive by on a small magazine, but to get you in front of TV and news and print in a way that it actually converts into business and exposure for your brand and helps you expand and grow. So I'm super excited to have Michelle on today. She's a client of mine. She's amazing. And we're going to dive deep into the world of PR. How do you access it? How do you really present yourself in a way that makes the most sense? And how do you get those bigger stages so that your brand can expand across the globe and get known and seen in the marketplace? All right, so that's what we have for you. Let's invite Michelle in the room. Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you. So great to be here.
So excited to have you. I was just bragging about your background as I was doing the intro, but I would love for you to tell the listeners, from your perspective, tell us a little bit about who you are and why you got into helping entrepreneurs figure out the PR game, because it does seem a lot like a mystery to most of us.
It does. It does. And thank you. It's interesting when I think back to my childhood, how much of that actually plays into my story today. My parents owned a mom and pop hardware store in my hometown, and were very successful with it. But for context, this was during a period of time where there wasn't a lot of publicity or marketing, and
Yeah.
actually the thought was, well, we have to run an ad in the newspaper or in the yellow pages. For those who know what yellow pages are, we have to run an ad in order for us to get our message out. Now, fast forward 30, 40 some odd years, and I was in the television industry for a good chunk of my professional life. And part of what that responsibility in television was to book for a lifestyle show. And we all see them. Good Morning Texas, Good Morning San Diego,
Yeah.
Good Morning Arkansas, all the different. And so in booking those, I was reaching out to mom and pop stores to find out, could they come on? Could we do a fashion show? What could we highlight? Do you have a book? What could we talk about? And so when I started the entrepreneurial journey, I thought, if there would have been possibly a lifestyle show when mom and dad had the hardware store,
Mm.
that hardware store my brother may be running that
Right.
hardware store now. I wouldn't be, but my brother might be. So, how can I take all this knowledge that I have from behind the scenes of how television works and how we would look for good stories and we wanted to tell good stories? How can I take that knowledge and marry it with mom and pop and now online businesses and teach them, hey, here's how you ask. We don't call it an ask, we call it a pitch, but here's how you do it. Because if I could help just one business, small business, if you're online, terrific. If you have a brick and mortar, terrific. If you have both, terrific. But to help just one be able to flourish and stop and go, oh my gosh, look at all the traffic and
Yeah.
all the revenue we're bringing in now just by adding this one little PR tool. That's it. That's
That,
all.
that's
That's
the
that's what
thing.
I'm here for.
Yeah, that's your heart. That's why
That's
I
my
wanted
heart.
you to come on today, because of how you really do, from your origin, like, care for the people that you work with. And I can tell you the honest truth, like, for most of us online that are in the coaching, consulting, author stages, kind of genre coaching, we the word PR seems like giant. Like it
Right.
it conjures up like the PR firms that you see in movies with like the glass windows and everybody, trying to come up with these billion-dollar campaigns. So we tend to discount or not even really understand. I mean, we know it's public relations, obviously, but
Sure.
can you talk about that for us, for this specific group of people? Like, what is PR and why is it important for us to even pay attention to versus the traditional places that people online tend to go, which is podcasts, YouTube, all those kind of things.
Definitely. A lot of times, to your point, we think of PR people as the fixers
Yeah.
because oftentimes a business's first introduction with public relations is typically negative. It's because something's gone south and
Yeah.
they need someone to kind of come clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Um, Public relations really is the feels of your business.
Yeah.
How do you want your business to feel? Do
Mm,
you want it to feel warm and cozy and comfortable? Do you want it to feel sleek and sophisticated and upscale? Do you want to marry those two?
yeah.
Do you want it to feel bright and sunny and cheery? Do you want it to feel dark and gloomy and not so cheery? It's the feels, it's the perception of your business and how your business is being perceived across the different platforms. Public relations is a tool in the marketing toolbox that a lot of people just kind of, because it seems a little mysterious and the definition is not hard and tangible, it's the feels. It makes people go, yeah, okay, I'll get to that someday.
Yeah.
Right now, I've got to focus on ads or what's my content or who's my
Mm,
next guest
yeah.
on the show.
Yeah. The social media, the growing content, all that kind of thing.
Yep.
What I said in the intro that you didn't hear, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on today is just this new and exciting mechanism, unique mechanism that you have that's different than, write some press release and send it out to the masses. And I always call it the hope and pray method, and hope somebody will, do that or hope there's a connection. You really have a new and exciting kind of a step-by-step process that I know social media is part of, but that can help someone, whether their business is getting started or is it multiple seven like ours or on 8, 9 figures. So I'd love for you to dive into the social media piece of the unique method. I know there's more to it, but why is it how well, let me ask a different question. How is it that we should be thinking about our social media
Mhm.
differently than maybe we do right now, which is please like me, please like me, please like me, please
Sure.
like me, right? In the in
Yeah,
the desire that someday, maybe, possibly, they become a client, which is,
right.
is not how I coach you guys. But tell me a little bit about that. Like, how should we think differently about social media in terms of what it could produce for us?
Sure. First of all, I love social media and I think that it is a terrific tool in the toolbox. You'll hear me say that quite often. It is one of multiple tools in the toolbox. Now, social media certainly lends to your credibility, or it should. But I think what is a stronger indicator of your credibility is the ability to utilize your local media. And that's what I help teach business owners to do. And in some instances, we'll work with the business owners. And when I talk about local media, I am talking about local radio, local television, local news. I was reading a statistic that Gen X, which is now the generation with all the purchasing power, also the smallest generation, that while yes, 95% of Gen Xers are on social media. We know that. I'm on, you're on, we're all on. We understand that. However, 82% of Gen Xers still watch local television
Mm,
and 65% still read local paper, and then 42 on local radio. So I had a client one day, just point blank, why should I be on TV? I don't watch TV. I don't even own a television. You don't.
yeah.
But there's a whole generation of customers out there that do.
Yeah.
And their money spends just as good
Mm.
as the people on social media as their money spends. And so part of this is working to get on the other side of, well, I could never be on television.
Yeah.
They would never want, like, well, I don't even know what to say. Well, first of all, you can. I'm going to show you how. First of all, or second of all, there are things that you can say. I'm going to show you what to say. And because of the background that I spent 20 years, it's a lot easier to help someone get in front of the right people
Mm.
than to send a press release to newsroom at
Right.
abcde.com.
Right.
If you have a name or if you know a couple of the positions to ask for, like a producer, like an executive producer, then that's half the battle right there. All you're wanting is to get a name. You don't actually want to talk to that person. You just
Right.
want their email address. Because if you can get your email in front of them and it's crafted and presented appropriately,
Yeah.
that exceeds your expectation or your chances of being invited as a guest, or hey, can we do a story, or what have you. There was one client in particular I worked with, and we went back and looked at the data, simply comparing a 30-second spot on the 5 o'clock news. It was after an event we created
Mm.
to help get them some press because they needed a good little, punch in the arm. They were looking to they were wanting to increase registration for a particular event. We created an event, got the press there. 5 o'clock news, the number one rated television station. That local market viewership was 79,000.
Wow.
The number two rated station, that viewership was 40,000. And that event owner, business owner, nonprofit owner said, I would never get 100,000 on any social media platform.
Yeah.
Like, how did that just happen in television?
Yeah.
And that was just the television numbers. We didn't look at radio numbers, but just in TV, the end of the 5 o'clock news for a 30-second spot. That's going to vary. That local market viewership is going to vary from market to market.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those were some tangible numbers, and that event ended up selling out.
Yeah. And I think about it too, the behaviors are different, right? So when you're sitting there and you're watching news or you're watching whatever, and for the people who do, their behavior is they're paying attention, where on social it's very distraction oriented. They're scrolling. So you're, even though you might be on there, I mean, we run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google ads, so we're there, but just having that moment. And I would love to, as I said, Michelle can't go through every part of her mechanism. So in the show notes, we'll put a link so that you really can jump in and follow her recipe, the new recipe that you need to know, because what used to work even 5 years ago isn't really working nowadays, where a lot of people, I know I think I had somebody come in and do a PR thing for me, and every piece of that really doesn't work, and your unique method really does. But talk a little bit about, even, like, obviously the goal of getting clients, getting people exposure, but talk also about the intangible benefits of, once you've been on TV, once you've gotten in front of a local or even national, if that happens, what that does to your credibility, to a buyer's confidence. Talk a little bit about those intangibles that are immediate from the moment you've been on and after, for
Yeah.
years and years and years. Yeah.
In a word, it skyrockets your credibility, because now what you have is that precious, maybe potentially coveted banner on your website as seen on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be CBS Morning News. It can be Hello San Diego.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. You have now the ability to include as seen on and the station that you've been on. The other part that adds to your credibility is that the stations, 9 times out of 10, take those segments and put them on their website. Well, that lives forever, as opposed
Yeah.
to a social media post that has instant decay all the way to, may make it 5 days. You always have that link. You put that link on your website. You promote the link on your social media. You're not, I mean, in some ways, I guess you are bragging. Hey, look, we got on TV, but you're not bragging like in an annoying, like, hey, look, I got on TV. I mean, but that right there, whether it's television, radio, newspaper, any of those media, different media outlets, it all of a sudden the subconscious goes, oh, hold on, because I can tell you from television, we would not just put anyone on the air.
Right. That's the perception, right?
And so, yes. And so, wow, okay, you got on TV or you were featured in the local paper, or how did they read your press release on talk radio? Like I heard them talking about this. How did that happen?
Hmm.
And it all goes back to presenting well and knowing how to get in front of the right people. There are also certain times of year that it's more beneficial. We are going into one of those years, typically, or one of those seasons, typically the summer season. There's a little bit of a dip in the news cycle. So they are looking for content. And so once you're able to get in, and once you're able to establish that you know what you're talking about when you go on television, for example, the easier it becomes. I worked with a woman out of Kansas City, and we were both going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona at the same time, and said, hey, let me see if Phoenix TV morning show might be interested in a segment with you. And I reached out to three stations in Phoenix. Two stations immediately came back and said, we'd love to have her on. I had also included a link from something that she had done on Kansas City television. So if she's okay to be in Kansas City, she'll
Beautiful.
be
Yeah.
okay to be in Phoenix. And we got her on Phoenix television. I mean, just over the course of a couple of emails, and it was done. And
Yeah.
she was elated. I got to tell you, I jumped up and down a little
Of
bit too.
course. Yeah. 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 And I think
So,
about it like in my mind, it's this instant referred credibility. It's like,
sure.
well, if they thought you were amazing and incredible and had something that was so valuable that they would use airtime to talk
Yeah.
about, then I'm safe. And we
Yeah.
all know that like that safety is a big important part of people buying, especially in this post-trust era that we're in online, where there's a high wall of skepticism. I think what you teach enables people to kind of bust through that wall with these features and gain that association buy, right? Okay, I'm safe because this is something that's been known on TV or local or print or whatever the case may be. So I love this. And it's something that most entrepreneurs, it's just not on their radar screen. They're spending money on ads and they're working their tails off on content and spending a lot of money, really, honestly, your time is money, right? So spending a lot of money with content strategy. And I'm not saying that those don't pay off,
Right. Right.
but why wouldn't you like, this is one of the things I talked in my Coach's Millionaire Blueprint about, like, behave like a business. Like you can't find a GM, a Tesla, any Nike, any of those that aren't accessing and utilizing and doing this. But
Yeah.
yet almost the entire online space just thinks, oh, I'm not sure. And this is what I love about you is that you don't just say, okay, just try and I'll kind of support you. You're like, no, follow this recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, nothing is guaranteed in life, but if you follow it and you keep following it and you put it out there, chances are the doors are going to open, and what that does for your credibility in your client's mind. And of course, we're always thinking about that, right? In your future client's mind, you can say, hey, listen, we talked about this on Fox News or CNN or whatever it is your flavor is, so it just immediately lowers that guard. What would you say for entrepreneurs, specifically like coaches and course creators? What would you recommend is like the very first thing, like one thing that they could do that actionable from today that will get them closer to, other than jumping in your ridiculously priced program. Seriously, you guys, I am coaching her to raise these prices. So
Yeah,
get
so
in
you better
now,
get in now.
get in now. But what's one thing that entrepreneurs could do
Yeah.
to like move the needle or prepare themselves?
Yep. One of the first questions I always ask a client or potential client is, what's the viewer benefit? Because here's what sets what I do aside from purchasing advertising time. I'm not talking about a commercial. When I have a client on television, we are serving the viewer.
Yeah.
What is the viewer benefit? What is in it for the viewer?
Mm,
What's the viewer going to walk away and go, I can do that? Or I never thought about it that way.
yeah.
What's in it for the viewer? Because the secret in television is when you present wanting to serve the viewer,
Yeah.
they're going to love that. TV
Yeah.
is going to love it. They're going to want you on all the time.
Yeah.
The moment it's, well, let me show you what my store is doing today.
Yeah.
Let me make it about me. You'll be on once and only once, and you will never be invited back.
Oh, that's so good because it's so is it transposes into honestly how we should be marketing,
Yeah,
especially as coaches and course creators that are getting somebody a result transformational one way or the other, either removing or creating for people results. That's so paramount to what we should ethically be doing in our businesses,
that's
being
right.
so focused on them and their results. And so it strengthens that muscle. So if I hear you correctly, it's sit down and think about what are maybe 3 to 5 benefits that you could really bring forward that will help that viewer,
Yeah.
aka your future client,
Yep.
if you were to get the opportunity to go on. And
Yep.
of course, we can practice with that live on our socials and be utilizing socials to get better and better and better in front of a camera, right?
That's right. That's right. And when you hone in on what that viewer benefit is, then that is what helps inform your pitch as you begin to pitch or ask television, newspaper, radio to consider your idea for a
Mm,
story. And I do want to add, least not anyone think, well, that's easy for you, Michelle. You know all the people, you know all the connections, da da da. 2 weeks ago, I pitched an idea to a friend who is in television about something for my business. And her response to me was, it's a good idea, Michelle, but there's not a lot of viewer benefit here.
mm,
And I went,
viewer benefit.
thank you so much. And then said, can I take the weekend and repitch you next week? Let me take a little time and rethink this
Good.
and recalibrate it. And she was like, yeah, of course, of course. But what you just presented, it's a no.
Yeah.
But of course, you come back, repitch. And so I don't want any listeners or watching on YouTube or anything for someone to go, well, it's, of course, it's easy for her. Look at
Yeah.
everything she's done.
Yeah.
Even I get a not this time, or it's not a right fit, or go back and rethink it. Yeah, we'll listen to it again, but go rethink it because this isn't going to cut the mustard.
Yeah.
So
No,
even,
that's really, really good because it really hones your mind, in your students' minds, your clients' minds on optimizing those viewer benefits so they really are purely 100% benefit and not that kind of tennis match of benefit for me, benefit for you, benefit for me,
right,
benefit for you,
right,
right? And
right.
unfortunately, we a lot of times if we've been in online for a while, we've watched so many marketing campaigns and we've done so many marketing campaigns that sometimes our brain stops thinking, how do I just serve? How do I just benefit other human beings? And I love that you strip that down in that way. In the program that is open, I know it's only open for a very short time, but what are the steps you kind of walk people through? I just would love entrepreneurs as they're listening or those that are getting started, because what are the, let me ask those about to ask 2 questions at once, which is not good podcast hosting. So what are the kind of overarching high level steps that they go through?
So we're going to talk about, first of all, why you need this in the first place, which you and I've already pretty much done. I lay out some of the data as it relates to local viewership. They're also going to learn the importance of a press release and how to write it. There really is a correct way to write a press release that is very 1967, yet it's still tried and true. And that is what radio and newspaper and TV to an extent, that's the format they expect to see. So even though it may seem antiquated, there really is a reason to that method to that madness. We talk about the importance of a media alert, what exactly that is, how to pitch, what all three of those are. Do you need all three of them? Do you just need one? Then I take it a step further and you get the interview. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
Now what? How do I prepare? Everything from providing talking points to making sure that you know how to access the television studio, the building, to making sure that you know what the air time is versus your arrival time, two different things, all the way down to what do I wear? How do I fix my hair? How do I wear my makeup? And then finally, we conclude with the importance of a thank you.
Yeah. Wow. So it is very much a current modern day new recipe for like just follow the recipe step by step by step by step so that you can actually get this mechanism that I don't know the stats on this, but very, very few entrepreneurs are actively employing in their business, which could open exposure to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people with full attention. So I just really believe that's why I wanted Michelle to come on and talk about this. I really believe you got to get creative right now. Like I'm always going to be the person that shows you to look and believe for the positive, and you've got to be aware of the current and the current right now. And I love the word current because it is what a river does, right? It takes you somewhere, right? So if you fight the current and try to do what everybody's always done, you end up exhausted, on the side of the river and not doing too well. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of entrepreneurs are like trying to do what they did in 2019, 2020. And I hate to tell you, but like that was the like kind of the pinnacle of the blind trust era. And now we're in a little bit of a different era, especially with what's gone on in our country over the last, let's say, I don't want to use specifics, but let's say the last 2 years. I don't want to get political, but like there's a lot of charge again, and people, the trust again has been a little bit eroded. And so instead of just trying to bang your head against the wall and hoping that the gurus' formulas that are outdated and created in the different era are working, enables you to say, okay, let me think like a business. Let me put my business owner hat on. Michelle knows I do that a lot, and say, what does Tesla do right now? Wait, why is he always in the news? Mm-hmm. Yes, he's an interesting guy, and I'm picking what we call a blue ocean character, but there's something to be learned. He's doing that because he wants exposure for his businesses.
That's right.
So a great example of that, I just saw it the other day, was he was on one of I think all the major channels because of a natural disaster. And of course, the infrastructure for all the normal cellular stuff went down. But he's like, I'm donating X amount, or I forget what his product is, Satellink or whatever, where he's got his own satellites, right? So of course, all of the companies jumped on that because he was helping, and it was like just in time kind of things. I don't think our brains as entrepreneurs naturally think the way a television producer's brains does in terms of what lands. And so that's why we need somebody like you to not try to, if we did it, we'd be trying to put a square peg in a round hole. What you do is you help us chisel it until it is round. So it actually
it definitely is two different brains. Having been a television producer and now being an entrepreneur, it takes a minute. Yet I've had people say, I never saw it that way.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do that?
Yeah.
I would have not thought. Um, one of the things I do in my spare time is I'm a runner
Yeah.
and run half marathons, marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks. So I was working with a race and they were wanting some publicity. And I said, well, let's do a medal unveiling. Let's just make a big deal about, ooh, we've got a medal. Let's unveil it. Let's do what? I wouldn't
Stuff
have
they're
thought that.
already doing, right?
And it's something they're already doing. And that is something I enjoy when given the opportunity to sit down with business owners is take a look at what is it that you have? What is it that you're already doing? And is there just a slightly different angle we could take that might set you apart or pique a lot of curiosity that we could craft something around an event or a press conference or something to generate some positive publicity, not reinventing the wheel, just maybe looking at the wheel instead of looking at it straight on, maybe just cocking our head a little and looking
Yeah,
at the wheel that way.
I love that. I love it because it makes it so simple what seems complicated. And down in the show notes, of course, we have a link to this unique methodology that I've been talking about with Michelle. So that's down in the show notes. I would love for you to like wrap up with just any last moment of what you would like them to know about potential possibility and yeah, just getting into the PR game and not being afraid. Get their pinky toe in.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely get your pinky toe in. Here's two thoughts that I'd like to leave you with. My heart's desire is that you would do it because if you're not, there's a real good chance your competition might.
Yeah.
And I would hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
And so think long and hard about, okay, well, how could I get a leg up? Well, this is one way that you
Yeah.
could get a leg up. My other thought and that I want to be sure and mention is I had a client, she was in Wisconsin, and she started out doing sending press releases. And we worked together on who she needed to send some press releases to. She was doing a series of speaking engagements around the country, working specifically with special needs students and educators. And so she was doing these workshops and speaking. She sent 3 different press releases to 3 different markets that she knew she was going to be in and never heard a word. On the fourth time, she was in Atlanta and she watched a television news crew pull up in front of the convention center. And she said, my heart went to my throat.
Wow.
And the first thing I thought of was, it works.
Yeah.
It took me 4 times to get it. It took me 4 times to do it. But on that fourth time, it worked.
Yeah.
And so my encouragement to the business owners and to those who potentially might check out this course, might purchase this course, do not get discouraged and do not take it personally if it doesn't happen on the first try. This method works
Mm-hmm.
if you'll do the work and keep going back and
Yeah.
keep going back until you get that yes. Because now, anytime she speaks, she's got news crews there.
Yeah. I bet.
Atlanta, Rhode Island, Phoenix. I'm not holding her hand. She's doing it on her own. And
Yeah.
she's creating incredible publicity for her business.
That's
All
amazing.
it takes is one. And once you get that one, boy, take it and run.
Yeah. I love that. Such a great parting shot. And the one thing I love about what you're doing is how quick that ROI, like you hear online, people like 10x, yada, yada, yada. Like this is like so quickly where you're going to get like a 10x ROI when you, like you said, once you get the one, it's just it's literally like the nose of the camel under the tent. Like it gets going. And then it creates for you these amazing talking points where you can talk about it on stage, you can talk about it in your webinars, you can talk about it in your lives, not to brag like Michelle said, but
Right.
borrow that credibility and to help people. And I think that's a great ending part because at the end of the day, when you do get these spots, TV, radio, etc., you're really expanding your reach. You're expanding your ability to help people, whether they come and buy or not. You're actually fulfilling what most of you have as a really high level goal, which is to create impact in the world. So you're going to do it on such a more intimate scale in this way. So Michelle, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. Thank you for making this available to my listeners. Like I said, everything's down in the show notes, and go out there and get yourself some airtime. And thank you, Michelle, for being on.
Thank you so much. It's been a true pleasure.
All right, that's it for me on the Epic Success Podcast this week. Bye for now, and I will see you next one. Bye.